What's up, DWA fam? This is Asia, here to remind you that if you like this episode, go ahead and hit subscribe on Apple Podcasts or leave us a rating and a review. We really appreciate it. It goes such a long way, and we love to hear what you guys are saying. Hope y'all enjoy this week's episode. Hey, y'all, and if you're new here, welcome to the family. My name is Asia.
My name is Jared, and thank you for listening to
Done with Adulting Podcast. We are really glad you're here because we're talking all things we have to do as adults that no one warned us about during the many years we were in school.
Yes, we also discuss pop culture, current events, and give our perspective on hot topic issues in our society. And even though we're best friends, we don't always agree.
Basically, we're millennials. We get it. Adulting is hard. Welcome to your safe space.
We hope you enjoy. Is there a way for us to get it's so funny. Is there a way for us to get the intro music onto a TikTok or onto a reel?
Yeah.
I'll literally make one, just me dancing.
You want to do this?
Effort. Yeah. You're the social media pro, so you let me know how we get that on there.
I will. If you want to make a freaking reel, I will make that happen, okay? You don't have to tell me twice. Come on. Oh, God. How you doing? How are we feeling today? We're doing well.
We're surviving, so.
We're living and surviving.
What we got today for him?
So this is a follow-up. We did our real estate investment episode. Well, I did it while you were being dad.
Daddying it.
You were dad lifing it, and we interviewed somebody that I know through my network marketing business for that. Same deal this week. Shout out to network marketing for connections. But we wanted to follow up the real estate investment episode where we kind of like really talked about first steps to getting into real estate investment to specifically Airbnb and like short-term rental.
Yeah. Passive income.
And so we
learned a lot about Airbnb.
Yeah, we asked one of my other business partners who runs literally her only streams of income are Airbnb and network marketing. She bought her home with the intention of it to be an Airbnb. And it was just such an interesting interview because I don't know, I feel like when I think of Airbnb, I think of like easy money.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's harder than that.
Not the case.
I mean, that's like looking from the outside in. I feel like a lot of people think a lot of things are easier than what they are. I mean,
yeah.
Think of potting. Everybody think that's easy. We thought it was easy.
Hardest shit I've ever done.
So, I mean, the same thing will happen with Airbnb.
Yeah.
Letting just strangers and randoms come into your personal space and do whatever they do.
Yeah, I guess what the biggest surprise to me too was just like learning about how much of a long game it is. Like I kind of thought you get a property, you set it up for Airbnb and you can start making money immediately, but that's not really the case, at least the way she described it.
Yeah.
But also she started in the pandemic, so there's that.
Yeah. I mean, obviously you got to put money into it to make sure that people actually want to stay there. And
takes money to make money.
Yeah. Yeah, money begets money. But it was a dope interview. She dropped a lot of jewels, a lot of knowledge, and I mean, hopefully if somebody's interested in doing that, then this will help them get there. Oh Jesus.
It's been a long night, folks. Yes. So yeah, no, we're interviewing Shelby McMullan. She's just super dope. At total full disclosure, Jared had some Wi-Fi issues during this interview. So we're gonna give him a pass though, because usually it's my Wi-Fi that's fucking up.
Facts.
So this was his first Wi-Fi fuck up. So we'll just, we'll give him a pass. So yeah, we hope you guys enjoy, and we think it's gonna be dope. All right. I'm so excited about this guest. Are you excited, Jared? Because I just can't even hold it.
Of course. I love the topic.
Me too. We've been doing a lot of like real estate dabbling recently and just trying to understand like how to live our best lives. So
how to get that passive income.
Yeah.
We love passive income.
We love
Facts.
it. So we are so excited that you're here, Shelby. Shelby and I work together in our network marketing business. Shout out to network marketing for friends, new friends in all
Yeah.
different areas of life. But we're so excited to have you here. Please just tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, and all the things.
Yeah, well, I am actually originally from a really small town, Shelby, from Shelbyville, Kentucky, but I went to school in Louisville. Most of my friends were in Louisville. So I am currently based out of Louisville. And my background is in art and art business. So I basically, decided that I was going to give up my love for travel, give up my interest in real estate, give up my, passion for interior design and all of those kinds of things because I wanted a job to be a starving artist, work in a museum, and to really love my life 9 to 5. Living for the weekend wasn't something that I could ever really bear. So I got into network marketing because somebody reached out to me that was actually a senior art director in New York City. So I was like, oh, okay, this business is going to be a joke. I just spent all my money traveling, was like getting my resume together, trying to get into the workforce with my real career, and figured that this person might be, somebody that I wanted to be friends with and somebody that could maybe be a contact for me.
Maybe a mentor.
Absolutely. So I got into it, very quickly found success and started traveling, and was just like, man, if I can go on a trip that I thought I'd never be able to afford in my career salary, 3 to 6 months into this network marketing business, I might as well take it seriously. Like, it would be such a waste for me not to pursue this and be able to not have to give up any of those things that I was passionate about and see more art, because, that's what I was originally so passionate about too. So have been doing that full time for about 3 years now, which is wild.
That's crazy.
But about
Like
2
time
years
flies.
ago, oh my gosh, it's wild. But then about 2 years ago, I bought my first home and got into Airbnb, which I'm really, really excited to share a little bit more about that with you all. So I've been doing short-term rental with Airbnb, running that online, and running my marketing business online as well, traveling a lot, and just kind of going where the wind takes me. It's been really fun.
I love that. And I love Airbnb. I feel like a lot of people try to compare like which is better, Airbnb versus like staying at a hotel when you're traveling.
Yeah.
And I 100% would love to go that Airbnb route all the time, depending on where I'm at, depending on where I'm going.
I really think it depends too. I know that you guys wanted to talk a little bit about travel too, and I'm all about a good hotel, but especially when I was younger, I studied abroad. And when you're broke as a joke, sometimes you just need to crash on somebody's couch. And especially when you're overseas, those real experiences with real people
in the culture.
Yeah, are really, really amazing. And you get what you pay for with that. It's cheap and nice to stay on somebody's couch versus, I'm trying to run my Airbnb kind of like a hotel experience. So it's interesting how much an Airbnb can differ depending on who the host is.
So what made you actually want to get into this? Because I feel like maybe 2 years ago, I would be nervous trying to jump into it, personally. So was there like any fears, anything you were scared of before you started?
Absolutely.
What was that whole process?
Absolutely. And I never really saw myself doing Airbnb. I thought that this was something that I'd probably do like late 30s after I already had my first home and I could diversify my income then.
Yeah, because I was going to say, you Airbnb your actual house. It's not like
I do
a secondary home or like an additional home. Yeah. It's like where you kind of live, I guess.
Yeah. But it's actually a wild and kind of charming story how I got into it. My sister, I had traveled and stayed in Airbnbs all over and loved the concept. But my sister's a nurse. And so, went straight into her career out of college and was able to buy her first home pretty early and start with Airbnb. So I thought, oh, that's so cool. but that's such a far dream for me. I was so uneducated on buying homes, mortgages, all of those
Yeah,
things,
that's
and
a
how
huge process in itself.
absolutely how it even works. So it's 2019. The world was our oyster. COVID hadn't happened yet. My
Good
sister,
times, good
right,
times.
right. Everything was good back then. But my sister was doing so well with Airbnb, and my family and I are big dreamers. So we just started like looking at houses in the Louisville area kind of for fun. So I'd been saving, and I travel so much with marketing that even though I was spending money on hotels and flights, like I hadn't paid rent in 2 years because I just traveled or like stayed with family or stayed with friends, etc. So I was able to save even more. Business was doing really great. I had investments, and my parents found a house they loved and were just talking with me about potential for Airbnb. And eventually the conversation just got a little more serious, and we were looking at a bunch of places. And then it got to the point where I sat my parents down and were like, look, this could be really amazing for our family. If you really want to buy a home, I'm willing to take time off from traveling and run it for you for a while. Like I have the marketing skills, design background, I'll stage it for you, set up the listing. I already do customer service for a living. You know, if you want to partner in this and you can pay me a percentage of the profits as the administrator instead of outsourcing, like I'm willing to do it. We can all profit. You know, I was full on pitching myself, hoping that my parents would hire me to do this side hustle for them alongside my full-time marketing
Love that.
job. So my parents start looking at each other a little confused, and I'm like, oh great, they don't think I can do this, they don't really believe in me. You know, my mind's reeling of how I can get them to allow me to be a part of this, right? And then they're like, I know you probably don't feel like you don't have a lot, but honestly, if we move some money around, like you can buy this house and run the whole Airbnb operation, Shelby.
By yourself. Yeah.
So my mind was really just blown. You know, I knew I was doing really well, that I'd been wise and had great credit, but how buying a house works and mortgages, you know, it just wasn't even on my radar at all. And you know, I wasn't anywhere near ready to settle down, which is when I thought I'd be buying my first house. I imagined needing a spouse to be able to, you know, despite seeing my sister do it, I just saw her as so successful in her nursing career. And I was like a million miles behind her, but I was just having so much fun in my life traveling. I was making great money, but I wasn't slaving at nursing school or working the night shift in the ER. You know, I felt like I was really small potatoes, and saw anything like not owning my first home, but doing something like an investment property would require me to be some huge mogul and have like a liquid $500,000 in the bank. And
I feel like that's how it's portrayed to us though. Like
really?
That is how, when you're on social media or even in like whatever, that's how it's even like the having to do it with a spouse thing. Like that I feel like is what is put on us. And also we're not like mortgages, home buying, like put
not
it on the list
on it.
of things we don't get taught despite going to school for literally
so many
years or however many freaking years. So no, that's so relatable, because it's just like that is what is given to us and fed to us from like media.
Absolutely. So, you know, I just graduated with an art degree and was just traveling around essentially homeless, like having a great time doing whatever I wanted. And I was like, there's no way this is possible for me at all, right? So I just had this wildly warped view of what it took to be able to do something like that. Because I looked up to my sister so much. And I really also I was 24 at the time and had a really warped view of where I was in life, you know. The thought that I could do anything substantial like this just seemed less likely than going to Mars. You know, I never even considered that it was possible. But my dad works at a bank, and, you know, I'm so privileged to have parents that I can trust. So they have complete access to my finances. They always have. And I really hope that they always will and can give me wise counsel, because I feel so ignorant on things like this. But we sat down and looked at the numbers, and they were like, look, see, you have enough to put down a great down payment. We have experience to help guide you through closing, and we'll co-sign so you can get a good interest rate. And property would be a much more profitable long-term investment for your money than keeping it saved, earning interest where it is.
Right.
So when we laid it all out and I saw this, like, I totally broke down. It really just shifted the way that I saw myself and my potential that I had. My privilege totally smacked me in the face like it never had before in my life. And my gratitude for my parents and their guidance. It was just really, really emotional.
So cute. So now you're having like a revelation about your life and yourself and like the things you can do, and you find the home. But did you go into it thinking like, because now I feel like if we fast forward, you're renting or Airbnb-ing more than you're living there. Like, I think you tell me, but was that the intent, or was the intent like to live there and then just like Airbnb it specifically when you were planning to travel, if that makes sense?
It's a bit of both. Right now, Airbnb has so many upfront investment costs to get it
Please
rolling.
tell us.
So much. So right now I'm trying to rent as much as physically possible. I'm trying to get as many 5-star reviews as I possibly can. I'm trying to beef up my Airbnb portfolio, if you will. And I travel a lot anyway, and my parents are close. So they have an apartment upstairs that I can stay if I, need to be out of my house so somebody can pay my mortgage, which is really awesome. But I have a long distance boyfriend, and being in this business, we meet people from all over the country, and getting to go have a free place to stay with my boyfriend or with a business partner or just, with friends is so nice. I can be out a majority of the time. And as good as Louisville is for Airbnb, I grew up here and it's pretty lame.
You're over it.
So, I love to travel.
What are some of those upfront like investment costs that you were mentioning for Airbnb? Like, what's sort of like the process like, high level, if you can explain it, just like all things, even things maybe you weren't expecting. Like, I assume there's an application process. Like, what is the deal?
As far as initial investments and expenses, I was coming from a place of not having to pay for housing for a while. Obviously I did in college and, as a young adult, but then I was in this position of constantly traveling and it just wasn't necessary. It was excessive to spend money on that when I was never going to be there. So, down payment on a house is a lot.
Right.
Adding that monthly payment of a mortgage or rent. Also, I was moving into a new home. So all of the furniture.
Okay.
You don't think about the fact that if you have a 3-bedroom, every mattress costs $1,000, a brand new washer and dryer, all of those things.
Right.
And then I'm super done with adulting because I'm doing my taxes right now and things like property taxes.
You're doing your taxes right now?
Yeah, we got an exemption, thank goodness. But I'm deep in the trenches of figuring out Airbnb taxes right now, and it's a nightmare.
That's so funny.
But yeah, like you said, as far as application, that's what most people don't consider going into Airbnb. And, we researched and figured out the permit situation for my property before I bought it.
Got it.
But I'm part of a slew of Airbnb host Facebook groups, and you would be blown away by how many people just buy a property and are like, oh yeah, I'll Airbnb it later. We'll figure it out after we move in. And you can't get a permit. So it's really, really about what's required and what's allowed in your area. It's really a city by city basis, sometimes county by county basis. And in Louisville, we have something like a place called planning and zoning, where you can actually go type in your actual address and see whether or not you are allowed to get an Airbnb permit. So if you need to put in a physical application, I would highly recommend that you actually physically print it out and fill it out question by question, just so that you can get a better idea of the things that they're going to ask you. And there's so many moving parts and so many nitpicky things in Louisville. Even if it's owner occupied, even if it's your house, even if you're living there, somebody has to live within 25 miles that can be a contact person for your Airbnb in case of emergency. And like some of the small municipalities like St. Matthews in our area don't allow short-term rental at all. And nobody's going to come along and tell you any of
that. Yeah, you're like figuring it out.
You have to do all of your own research, and that's so frustrating.
Yeah.
But even your realtor, like, they might have some insight, but that's not their job.
Right.
So
do you have to have different, like, I mean, everybody who owns a home has homeowners insurance.
Yeah.
So is that different too? I imagine it is, like, having insurance for renting. Like, I think if I understand correctly, there's some like policies that cover, like, whatever the percentages that you're going to be, the time percentage that you're going to be renting versus living there. Like, is that a whole thing as well? And did you do that up front?
There are additional policies that you can add on to your homeowner insurance, like a short-term rental clause.
Okay.
Personally, I did all the research, and I called the insurance company about 1,000 times and talked to my person. And small town things, they know my parents and I know who they are. And they advised me that I really didn't need it, because also you do have some insurance as an Airbnb host through Airbnb.
Oh, okay.
And it's really hard to take advantage of. Of course, they make you jump through a lot of hoops.
Right.
But it does protect you in a case of, something terrible happening, or your property getting damaged, or your guests not being who they say they are.
Oh, that's okay. I have so many questions. Full disclosure, I don't know what's going on with Jared's Wi-Fi. He keeps popping into our interview and then disappearing. So we're just going to keep it moving and hope he returns. But I was going to say, as my next question, like, so there's obviously levels to, like, any sort of rental related to just like how hands-on you want to be with it.
Absolutely.
So my question is, like, for you, and I guess if you had to, like, recommend for someone who's like a first time Airbnb, or like, what does that look like in terms of just, like, some people have cleaners, like, but I know just from knowing you that, like, you do a lot of cleaning yourself. And so, like, what type of decisions do you have to make in those regards? And, like, what would you recommend? What are you currently doing?
Well, I'll say, again, a lot of that goes back to what's allowed in your area.
Oh, really?
So as far as non-owner occupied in Louisville, it's extremely hard to get. Like, the city, for the most part, is looking to deny as many Airbnb permits as they possibly can to protect the hotel industry. So it's hard to deny an owner occupied, like, if you actually own the home. But there are certain limits to how many there can be in the area due to trying to protect the hotels. But for non-owner occupied, like, if your address that you're Airbnb-ing is not on your license and where all of your mail goes to, and your official residence, then, like, in Louisville, for non-owner occupied, there can only be one every 600 feet, and you have to go petition to city council to get the permit.
Oh God.
So it's serious. But
I know a lot of people, like, in the neighborhoods are, like, totally against Airbnb coming to, like, their specific streets and things like that. And I just don't understand why, like, the cities are so against them. It's bringing tourism to the city and things like that.
Well, when you think about it, Airbnb guests who are not good neighbors are bad for neighborhoods. So there are now these big corporate groups doing huge operations and just, like, letting anybody stay to make a dollar like a machine. And that negatively affects the community. And they're throwing parties and being loud and disrupting the community in a big way. And therefore, that's also something to consider, because if those are around you, they can therefore even possibly depreciate the value of your property. So there's also, if you own a condo in a building or a house in a homeowners association, sometimes condo boards or the HOAs can completely ban short-term rental. And if you're buying a house, that's part of the paperwork and is in your neighborhood agreement and all of that. But there are also situations where there'll be a bunch of lake houses and all of a sudden there are multiple Airbnbs running and they're throwing huge parties and being a huge disruptance to everybody going there to relax for the weekend. And the HOA just gets together and is like, we don't like you guys. We're completely banning Airbnb here. And that just screws over all of the Airbnbs in the area. There's legal battles. It's a lot. But then also, Jared, like you were saying, as far as neighbors not liking it, if your neighbor or if your guests are rude to them, you can get to a point where eventually your neighbors will just screw with your guests so much that your reviews get tanked and they run you out of business. So if you don't,
like a lose-lose.
Yeah. So if you aren't super strict in monitoring who you let stay, it can become a real issue for you. And that's one of the hardest things about it.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I was going to say is like, so that kind of like going into my next question, which is like, I guess like, what would you say is the most challenging thing, like realistically, about being an Airbnb host? Is it choosing who's going to stay? Is it like choosing the wrong person and they like fuck everything up? Is it cleaning the toilets? Like, what is the what's the worst of the worst? Like, just be realistic with us here, and then we'll go into like what's amazing about it.
Well, personally, the thing that I hate the most is putting the duvet covers on the duvets, because it is just the most tedious thing in the world. Like, I would rather scrub a toilet than change the duvet cover.
That is so specific.
It is so frustrating.
You don't ask them to put the I guess,
yeah, I was
the
gonna say,
laundry and sheets into the dryer or wash or anything.
Well, yeah, but you still have to put it back on. And I don't ask them to. That's another little tiny thing is, if I have my guests strip the beds and put the linens in the washer and dryer, I can't see if there's a stain that needs to be treated before. You know what I mean? So it's little things like that. But as far as challenges, there are so many, because it's just extremely complicated. There's so many moving parts and decisions to make about your property specifically, how it's going to work and be integrated into your lifestyle. It's a very long game because it takes a long time to turn a profit. So many business expenses and investments that you have to make and continue to make as you go. And it's a ton of manual labor. And every time
I was going to say, I think that's the biggest misconception, is that it's a long game. Like, I feel like when you hear people talking about or like fantasizing about it, they'll be like, oh, I just like want to Airbnb. Like, I want to get a property and Airbnb it. And they make it sound so like simple. Yeah. Like you're going to make money as soon as you get your first renter, but it's like not like that.
It's deeper than that. Yeah.
In terms of just like, the challenging parts of like, even just picking who's going to stay there. You know what I mean? Like, you were kind of talking about how many challenges there are and how long it takes to turn a profit. I mean, you've been Airbnb for 2 years now. And like, do you feel like you're at a point that it's like profitable, or are you still like on the train chugging along?
Well, it's different for everybody starting out, but I bought this property with the intention of it being another business. And if not, I wouldn't have bought a home just like to have somewhere to live, because I didn't need to. So I count things like my down payment and my mortgage and all of those things that the average person would already be allocating money to as business expense. So when you take all of that into account, and all of the furniture, everything, when you subtract my earnings from that, especially considering I lost out on 8 months due to COVID that I thought I was going to be renting.
Right.
I'm still like dozens and dozens and dozens of thousands of dollars at a loss. But when you also consider the long-term profit in that my property value has also appreciated dozens and dozens and dozens of thousands of dollars since I bought it in just 2 years, I'm about even where I started.
Sure.
But, you know, even considering that like this month has been a good month and my Airbnb homepage says that I'm making 3 times what my mortgage is, I still put thousands of dollars into the furniture and, you know, thousands of dollars into the property and into renovations, into, you know, snacks for my guests, into the sheets and the extra bedding and all of the extra towels and replacing things and all of those things that it
making sure it's somewhere that somebody wants to be at, right?
Exactly. So it takes a while to break even and then find the profit. But, you know, when you take into account as well how things are going for me now and future market projection in the next 1 or 2 years, as I continue to pay myself back for those things and zero out those initial expenses, you know, Airbnb will end up being the equivalent of a second full-time income in profit every single year on top of the appreciating property value. So crunching numbers, big picture, accounting for every single dollar to make this happen. These past 2 years have been a massive L for me. But as time goes on, the profit margin will just get more and more massive, and I'll be exceptionally better off for it. And my money invested into this property and this business will have a wildly higher return rate than it ever could sitting in an account gaining interest, you know? And that just includes like the numbers and not the intangibles that you get from doing something like this.
Yeah, it sounds like you just have to have patience and just go with the ups and the downs, just like really owning any other type of business, really.
Yeah, and just being realistic.
Yeah, that's
it is point. A lot of scrubbing toilets.
I was gonna say, but people have like I stayed at an Airbnb in LA a few weeks ago, and the guy was like, "Make sure you're out by 11 when the cleaners get there, or like we're gonna charge you." So, should I assume that he's been like probably Airbnb-ing forever, has multiple properties, and like has invested in cleaners? Is that like
maybe
most likely? Yeah.
And I have a cleaning team as well.
Oh, okay.
But, you know, when you book an Airbnb, you have, you know, the nightly rate, and then you also have a cleaning fee, like as the guest when you book. So that cleaning fee, I can either pay my team to come in and do that for me, which is what I do anytime I'm traveling to make sure that it's perfect while I'm gone. And then, but they're also cleaning people. They're not Airbnb people. So I still have, you know, a family member or a friend come and check in on it and like put the chocolate on the pillow and make sure the soap is out right.
Make sure everything is good. Yeah.
Yeah. Make sure everything's perfectly in place. But if I'm there and can do those friggin' duvet covers and clean the toilets myself,
you'll just pocket that.
I get to pocket that. Yeah. So I'm trying to get as much profit as I possibly can. And I forgot to say this, to you earlier, as far as like the occupancy rate, how often I'm renting versus not. As a short-term rental property, because you're owner occupied, you technically live in the place. You have to be rented less than 50% of the time. But like January and February, I was only booked like 3 or 4 days, and this month I'm booked like 20 or something. So my occupancy rate is really high, but it evens out over the year.
Yeah, that's like a yearly thing. Yeah. Okay, most rewarding parts about being an Airbnb host at this point in your journey?
Well, having your mortgage paid by somebody else while you're out traveling is pretty sick. I'm not gonna lie.
I wish I had that.
Right? It's pretty cool. even though you have to scrub toilets to do it, it's pretty cool. But
Worth it.
I would scrub a lot of toilets for that.
You have to scrub your toilets anyways, even if you live there. So it's like, whatever. Like,
Exactly.
Hopefully.
Might as well do it and have your mortgage paid.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully.
But that also goes with being displaced from my home. Like,
yeah,
it's my home. It's my first property. It's my baby. And even when I go there, if I'm not staying for a full week, like if I have guests with a couple days in between, I have to sleep on my couch with a blanket and a pillow so that I don't have to flip another bed again. So, that's that. But it's worth it because even if my mortgage wasn't getting paid, what's really rewarding about it is, some of the best memories of my life have been sleeping on some random bed in somebody else's house because of Airbnb. Like
That is true.
Some of my best memories, my best days are coming home from exploring a new city while I was studying abroad or going on a much needed vacation or something like that. And somebody else giving me the option to be able to do that because I didn't have to pay extra for a hotel or, had that experience with a host. And just to be able to have that in my back pocket and know that I get to do that for somebody else is really a special thing that means a lot more to me than I expected it to when I got into this for the business side. But
I never thought of it from that point of view, actually.
I know. I knew Shelby was going to say that because she's like so insightful and just like her energy is just so positive. I'm like, she's going to say something like giving people memories.
Yeah, like you're creating experiences for other people that you don't know, and you're able to kind of shape that with your property and I guess the recommendations that you give them. And I feel like some Airbnb holders can take pride in that and get absolute joy from that. So I mean, that sounds pretty dope to hear. I never really thought of it from that point of view.
Yeah. And I'll say from just from an informational point of view that ties back into this, something they say for a good Airbnb property that you need is the trifecta, which is a hospital, a college, and a tourist attraction. So in Louisville, we have Baptist Health, Norton, we have U of L and Bellarmine. Colleges are 5-minute drive from me. I'm a 10-minute walk from all the bars downtown. And in Kentucky, we have Churchill Downs for the Kentucky Derby, right? So
oh, wow.
We have a lot of mom and dads that are coming in to watch their kids graduate in person.
Aww.
Yeah. And, people who are visiting people in the hospital and friends that are coming in to go on the Kentucky Bourbon Trail and experience Kentucky bourbon, which we love and have a memory that they'll have for such a long time. And it's really cool to have the kinds of guests that we have had have been really, really amazing and really, really special. So,
okay, this is just for fun, but like any terrible, like worst guest story ever in the hit, like of all your guests?
Absolutely.
There was poop on the sheets.
Yeah. Was there like shit on the walls? Like what?
Well, I will say that, if you identify your target demographic and you price yourself correctly, you will have less of this. And I have been extraordinarily fortunate in the guests that I have booked. But when I was first getting started, and my sister has an Airbnb, so I'll give you a horror story from her too. But when I was first getting started, I was just kind of like desperate for bookings. I was really needy and like, okay, anybody can book me.
You were booking everybody.
Yeah.
And I could talk for, an hour on how to vet who should come to your place and not. But there was this guy and he didn't have any prior reviews and, he wasn't communicating super well. And we just had a bad feeling about it. And I was like, but here's the thing, I'm poor and I need someone to help me pay my mortgage because I don't want to pay it. And, even if he totally trashes my place, it's still like more than $500,000. So we're just going to accept him and cross our fingers. Terrible idea. So we get to the place afterwards. He barely communicates with us at all. And it is completely trashed. Like,
What?
I'm talking dirt, mud, blood, bodily fluid,
Blood?
hair,
Oh, geez.
all of this stuff.
A murder scene?
I was about to say, yeah.
Not that much blood, but blood.
Oh my God.
And, you know, I had my parents come with me just in case for security because it was, you know, really shady.
Sure.
And my dad found what looked like very, very serious hard drugs. There were a ton, just like tons of trash bags left outside, and we kind of opened them to see what was going on. And it seems like he was doing some sort of insurance fraud through my house. So, you know, people book Airbnbs to take advantage of the hosts and to do crime. So it's something that you really have to be aware of.
Unbelievable.
And another situation that my sister had to deal with in Nashville is, super scary. All my other guests are like moms, so really great, but this guy was super shady. But in Nashville, my sister had a young girl book, and it was only supposed to be 4 people in her place, four girls. It was just like, hey, me and a few of my friends, blah, blah, blah. It was a boyfriend of the girl that used her profile to book the place to get an instant book. And my sister sees on the Ring cameras, he's bringing in a cooler, a keg. There's like 10 guys, and they're throwing a bachelor party in her house when they didn't even request to book. It was the sweet little girlfriend. So, you know, it's hard. And for that reason, we have Ring cameras, security on every entrance always, because also, you know, people could sneak in 5 extra people and let them sleep on the floor for no dollars. And we don't accept dishonesty when it comes to my huge investment.
Is there anything that Airbnb does from their point of view or from like their side to, I guess, get rid of like any type of scams or things like that?
Yeah. Okay. Wait, before you answer that, Shelby, I just want to say I have a little tip with Airbnb right now, because for some reason I am like exiled from Airbnb. Like, I don't know if I don't know if it's because I changed my name and they're like confusing me with somebody else. But I tried to go book an Airbnb like this past year, though when I went to LA, I ended up having to use VRBO. And because I went to log in, I went to go do it, and they were like, all right, send your ID or whatever. And they emailed me and they were like, you got some like terrible review or something. Reviews. But I have not used Airbnb in years. So like when I tell you I couldn't even think of like how this was possible. And they were like, you can no longer book. And there's not even like a phone number I can call to figure out what happened. Like, they're literally a mystery, and they've just exiled me.
Trying to get on the phone with them.
It's so hard. It is so hard.
There's no such thing.
And you know, that's what makes Airbnb so hard, because they're just a huge organization, and it's really hard to get a hold of a real person. So a lot of the interactions are just between host and guest. And if you have a horrible guest or a horrible host, a lot of times you're just out of luck.
So now
that's what I was saying. Like, there has to be something in place for, I guess, the company Airbnb to have some protection for the homeowners and also for the guests, because there's been times when I remember I went to Miami and one of my friends booked something, and it was like a totally different place than what they advertised.
Yeah.
And we weren't able to get our money back or anything like that. And I mean, if we were in like a worse place than we were, it could have been a scary situation. So I'm assuming that's happened in the past. And just like you being you being the Airbnb host, if you go and are trying to rent it out to somebody, but then somebody else shows up, like that can be a scary situation.
Yeah. And in that situation with my sister, they did have to pay, but they got kicked out. So that was awesome that Airbnb took care of her then. But I will say, because I was just talking to somebody about this, if you are a guest and you show up to an Airbnb and it is not what you paid for as far as pictures or description or whatever, you must file a claim within the first 24 hours and you cannot stay there. So if you're just out of luck and you have to go to, another place. If it's not what you paid for and you just like want a discount, you can't do that.
That sucks. Yeah.
So if you stay there,
they
they won't even like, if you do stay there, they won't even listen to your claim.
There's no compensation. Yeah. And it has to be.
I mean, what if you what if you don't have any like type of backup?
That's a
you don't
bad
have any
policy.
type of additional. Yeah, you don't have any type of additional money to find anywhere else to stay. I mean, I don't know.
And that's
maybe they'll hear this and work on their policies.
Yeah, sure, I'm sure.
Yeah. and that's something, Airbnb gets a bad name because of really bad hosts and really bad guests. But if you do
People always
it the
ruin
right
good things.
way, absolutely. If you do it the right way, it is such an amazing thing. So it's just, like be the change that you want to see in Airbnb, please, for everyone.
Yeah. No, I love Airbnb. I love Airbnb.
It's great.
Every time I travel, I look up Airbnbs. I think it's pretty dope. I actually know it was this kid that I used to work with. He actually had like a 3-family house in Portland, Maine. He had family living in one part of it. He rented out another part for like full-time rent. And then he Airbnb the third place. And it was funny, you were talking about cleaning. He would just have his family members, whenever somebody left, go in there, clean up for him. He would just pay them like $100.
Yeah.
He was like completely hands off and just living in Massachusetts and just making a ton of money. So
Smart.
it definitely has its perks and benefits.
Yeah. And also, I'll say too, you can't necessarily just like have your buddy go clean up. With Airbnb, it has to be clean, like pristine clean. And there's a certain expectation because there are also terrible guests that will see one hair in the bathtub even though the rest of the place is completely fine and say they want a full refund or they want to stay 4 nights for free. Or there's even horror stories in the Facebook groups. My mom told me this one, that people will bring a dead bug in a plastic bag and dump it out and then try to get
people are tripping.
Stay for free. Yeah, it's
people
shady.
are psychotic.
People are shady.
Tripping.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
That doesn't surprise me. Honestly.
I know. People are sick, honestly. I want to shift gears because we don't have a lot of time left and you have so much travel expertise. The another, like, just for context as well, we'll put all of Shelby's like Instagram and stuff information because part of the reason I asked her to come on was because I learned so much about travel just from being her Instagram friend. So just give us a little bit, like you said, you've been traveling forever. I feel like you have so many little hacks and like you're always getting upgraded flights and like Delta Sky like wine complimentary. And so
Delta Sky wine complimentary.
Yeah, I don't know what that is, but you know what I'm saying.
I love it.
So like, what are, if you have like 3 or maybe 3 to 5 like of your favorite travel hacks, tips, especially for millennials who we are just, trying to make it by and get the best deal and not spend all of our dollars, please share your gems with us.
There's so many travel hacks
I know.
and things, but I'll talk about the most tangible ones that have blessed me the most lately. And the one that I talk about all the time is travel credit cards. I recently got the American Express Platinum card, and it completely changed my life.
American Express Platinum. Okay.
Yes. And I will also take the opportunity to say, first and foremost, if you don't pay off your credit card every single month in full, it's not helping you. You're going into debt. So, if that's a trigger for you, don't get this card. But if you travel a lot and you can, use wisdom and discernment and self-control, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me, guys. Just by enrolling, you get automatic Hilton gold status, automatic gold, platinum, whatever, the highest thing for Marriott and for Hilton, which means early check-in time, late checkout time, extra points on every visit that you can cash in for free nights, complimentary upgrade up to the executive level just based on what they have available. So you could stay in a bougie room that's $2,000 a night when you only paid $150, which is sick. Doesn't happen all the time, but we love, the opportunity to. Also, what I love about the American Express Gold or the American Express Platinum is you get free lounge access to all lounges all the time, and there's free food in there
at the airports.
At the airport, and there's free booze in there. And I was spending stacks in the airport because for some reason it's just a trigger for me, and I just want to binge eat when I'm in the airport.
Same.
So many hundreds of dollars saved by having the lounge. It's unbelievable. And it just feels special. And sometimes you just don't want to be next to a screaming kid sandwiched between a bunch of people at your gate. And It's just fantastic and bougie and something that I would never pay for. So having it for free is awesome. Something else I can't recommend enough is Global Entry or TSA PreCheck.
I have that.
If
I
you don't,
I need that.
Yeah, Global Entry.
Got that yet, but I need that.
Global Entry is when you get to skip the huge line for customs if you're coming back into the United States. And I know that's pretty unfamiliar for all of us right now. Hopefully we'll get back to it.
Yeah.
But you can do Clear or TSA PreCheck, and it's like $50 for 4 years.
It's so cheap.
Or $100, and you just get to skip the line, and you don't have to take your shoes off or take your laptop out.
Oh, I thought it was yearly. I thought it was yearly.
No, you pay. I think it's like $75 for like 4 years, and it's the best. We joke.
I hate taking my shoes off, dog.
We like joke in my family now because when I changed my name, I would not ever recommend changing your name.
It, right?
Even if you get married, even if you want to get married, would not recommend
just
changing your name.
Yo, that John, that process takes forever.
It's so stupid, and it's like, what's the point? Anyways, I didn't think about changing it on my TSA PreCheck, so I booked a flight, and I didn't have PreCheck, and I was like, wait, where's my little check mark on my boarding pass? And I was like, oh shit, I didn't change my name on this damn PreCheck. So I call and I'm like panicking. They're like, yeah, sorry, it takes a couple weeks, but like, here's how you can do it. So I had to go on this flight without PreCheck, and you would have thought I was being like dragged through the mud. I was standing next to these peasants.
Yo, I hate taking my shoes off. I hate taking the laptop out.
Worth it.
Ridiculous.
I arrived to the airport so much later now because I'm like, I'm just gonna go through PreCheck in 5 minutes. No shoes, no laptop. You don't like Terrence doesn't have to take off his belt. None of that shit. I keep all my Apple Watch on, my jewelry. Like walk right through, and I'm at the gate. It is so worth it. I need to do Global Entry though. That's my next thing.
Dude, there's honestly nothing in the world like the pride you feel when the line is like 200 people and you just walk up to the front and you're like, yeah, I did that. But also like, I'm so sorry that you have to deal with that right now. But yeah.
Where's your favorite place you've traveled?
Oh man, I was not expecting that question. That's so incredibly difficult.
Oh wow, that sounds like you've been all over the place.
I've been to a few places.
So humble. I've been to a few places.
But I mean, that's just my priority in life. So that's what I spend my money on. Other people have different priorities, and it is what it is. But the place that I feel most like myself and that feels most like home to me and that I wish that I could be majority of my life is Florence, Italy, just Italy in general.
Heard it's beautiful out there. I've never been.
Oh my gosh, amazing. And they have wine everywhere and it's so cheap,
love the wine. I did like Capri, Sorrento.
Oh, amazing.
I have to go back. It was so good.
But also it's like art capital of the world.
Right. So art. Yeah.
It's pretty great to just like walk down the street to get your favorite gelato and Michelangelo's right there. It's just cool. But I think travel is also just about kind of what happens to you and what's unplanned and the people that you're with. Because I also did a 4-month trip through Southeast Asia and had a lot of trauma on that trip. Like was working through a lot of stuff.
Geez.
I was hospitalized. Like things did not go as planned. But just the people that I was with and the memories and the experience and the growth that happens when you're totally displaced from your present life and you just get to kind of assume a new identity and live in that, I think is really amazing. And that's also been one of my favorite travels.
Love that. Any other, like, now we're at the part of the episode where we're like, is there anything you didn't get to say, what you want to leave people with? Any other travel hacks we didn't talk about? Any other Airbnb tips? Like whatever
the one thing you want to leave the listeners with.
Honestly, this is so hard because I just wish that I could give you a full on crash course of everything I know about Airbnb, because it's a lot of research to do yourself. So if you have any questions, please, let me be a resource for you, because man, it's hard and I don't want it to be as hard for you. But I think the biggest thing is there's no substitute for a good spreadsheet and, sitting down, figuring out expected revenue and expenses, what are properties in your area going for, how much profit can you expect to make per month, and then allowing that number to set your budget for expenditures and, time allotted, all of those things, I think is really great. But also in general, just do what you want. Like my life is so random and everybody looks at me and is like, what in the world are you doing? And like, I kind of don't know, but I'm having a great time. And no matter what you do,
I love that.
No matter what you do, somebody's going to judge you and somebody's not going to understand and whatever. And that might be cliche, but like, do what you want. Buy a house when you're in your early 20s. Don't live in it, sleep on your couch, clean the toilets, and then go to Thailand, just whatever you have the opportunity to do, use your resources to live a big life, be a good steward, and, do what makes you happy and allows you to serve others to the best of your ability. And other than that,
that's so true.
Who really cares about anything else? So
dropping the freaking mic.
She's preaching.
Come on.
That's like those people talking bad or like questioning what you're doing. They're just projecting their own insecurities and their jealousy on you because they want to do what you're doing. They want to be in Thailand. They want to be traveling as much as you are while still making passive income and things like that. So kudos to you. And
I'll also say it's not even hate. I mean, some of it's hate, but it's not even hate. It's just lack of understanding, confusion of how it works, how I'm getting by. And, you can't explain everything to everyone or else you'd just be sitting there having conversations 24/7, not living. Yeah. So
and some people don't even deserve that. So,
yeah.
Wow. Mind blown. Tell us, drop your handles or wherever else people can connect with you. We'll also put it in the show notes, but just shout it out.
I'm primarily on Instagram, which is at Shelby Ashton, ASHTON MCM. I guess Shelby is SHELBY ASHTON MCM. I don't know. Some reason my phone keeps autocorrecting my own name to Shelby with an I, and I just don't even understand.
And
that.
You're just like, why iPhone?
Is there any special keyword we can search on Airbnb to find your property if we're ever trying to make a trip to Louisville?
How do we stay with you?
I can send the listing. Also, I really need to update my photos because they're terrible and from like early 2020. And there's another full bedroom and so much more furniture. And I actually made some art.
Okay, well, this is not going to come out for like 2 to 3 weeks. So add it to your list.
So it needs to be done by the time. Yeah,
you can give yourself a deadline if you need a deadline to get it done.
Love that.
But yeah, send us the listing. We'll put it in the show notes. And if anyone's in Louisville, you've been saying Lou.
Nobody knows how to say it.
Okay, but
It's
I feel like
Louisville.
I feel like
It's not
you've
Louisville.
I know I know it's Louisville. I was gonna say Louisville, but I say like Louis, but Shelby's been saying like Louisville.
It's Lua.
Like with like an A.
Louisville. Anybody that's from here will tell you.
That's what I was gonna say. I was like, you must be
pronounce
saying
is
it the right way because you're from there. I'm obviously saying it the wrong way, but I've always said Louisville.
Yeah. I mean, you can say it how you want. I'm not super emotionally attached to Louisville, other than the fact that my home is there. I'm not a big Kentucky girl. You might know that, Asia, but like, you know, small town and farming is not really my jam. But
Same.
Louisville is really amazing. The Kentucky Derby is fantastic. We're a huge foodie town, and we have the most bourbon of anywhere on the planet. So it's a good place. Ooh. And if you want to lose your current bias of what Kentucky is like and come stay in my bougie B&B in Louisville and let me tell you all the good places.
Yes.
Would love to do that for anybody because it's really fun out here.
We would love to do. Will.
Let's take a DWA trip.
We're going to, whenever we get our tour off the ground, our live podcast tour, LOL. That's definitely going to be on the list, but we will put all this in the show notes for you all. And Shelby, we are so grateful that you came on the podcast today. You're welcome back anytime. I feel like people are going to listen to this and be like, tell us more. So who knows? Well, maybe we'll do a part 2.
Well, there's plenty to say. If you have any specific questions, of course, you can request another podcast or come to me. But really, I love what you all are doing here with Done with Adulting. And I've been listening to this podcast for so long, and truly it's such an honor to be here and that you guys think I have something valuable to say. So I hope that this was helpful to anybody just looking to diversify or thinking about Airbnb in general.
Oh,
we appreciate you.
I will cry on the podcast. Yes, we love you. Come back anytime. And thank you so much again.
Of course. Talk to you soon.
So freaking good. Like, wow. I feel like after every interview I've learned 50,000 new things.
Yeah, we have a lot of great guests that come on and like just drop the jewels, and they 100% know what they're talking about. And
yes. Also, like, I think one thing that's hilarious about us is that we obviously prepare for our interviews, but we don't do too much because we actually want to like live learn.
Yeah.
And
like, it's conversational. It's not like us just like hammer them with questions.
Yeah. What was your favorite part about it? My
favorite part was her inviting us down to Louisville to go to her spot and hearing how dope it is. I'm like,
I know I've never been there either.
I haven't been there, but she said there wasn't really much to do. I mean, but she said there was some great bourbon there. I'm a fan. And also the Kentucky Derby. But
I would go to the Kentucky Derby, but it's very let's just say I need to go with the gang.
Yeah, if I went there with the right people, it would be a good time. I'm not just going there. You know what I mean?
I need some backup. Yeah. We'll just say that.
What was your favorite part?
I don't know. It's not my favorite part, but I think it's interesting hearing like the horror stories. I always think about going to Airbnbs. Like, I wonder what's the worst thing that's happened here. Like when I go to Airbnbs, you know what I mean? So to hear the one about like her sister and just like crazy.
To me,
shit.
It's crazy that she actually uses like this is her main residence.
I know.
'Cause, like other people that I know who do Airbnb, or what I assumed for just people in Airbnb in general, was
they don't live there.
Yeah, these were their like other properties.
Yeah, goals.
But this is actually her, just like her main
house.
John. Yeah,
crazy.
Good for her.
So yeah, if you guys like it, don't forget to leave a review, comment on the Instagram post, let us know what other types of things you want to hear about, and also hit that subscribe button because you don't want to miss the topics coming up next.
Yes, make sure you hit up Shelby, follow Shelby. Also, you can follow us on the socials, Done with Adulting Pod. Also on Twitter, done WTH Adulting.
Time for bed.
Yep. Deuces.